Number one, Ibble Dibble here. Hello, friends, and welcome to a very special episode of Ibble Dibble, wherein I tell you how I know that Meghan and Harry were not scared by paparazzi in New York City, although they pretend to be very frightened and disheartened, fleeing from New York City paparazzi for the first full 2.5 minutes of episode 2.
Be with friends in less than 10 minutes.
Sure. This is a bit of a tangent. I'm certainly going to do a more thorough review of episode 2, but as someone who grew up in New York City, as someone who grew up among celebrities, I had to address this. So this episode opens in New York with them supposedly getting followed by a pop on a scooter, which, as a born and bred New Yorker, I can tell you is highly unlikely for a few reasons: cultural, practical, and legal. First, cultural. Obviously, tourists will ask for selfies, and the odd person in a shop or restaurant will try to take a surreptitious cell phone photo. But generally, it's considered rude and tacky to photograph public figures in New York, and people don't do it. Think about it. If you're a shopkeeper and you behave like this, you lose them as a customer. If you're a neighbor, you probably think it's beneath you in the first place, but you also definitely lose them as a potential friend or connection. If you're a restaurateur, you will never get a reservation from a celebrity again. And this works both ways. It also encourages celebrities to behave themselves. If one of them gets into a bar fight, doesn't tip their waiter, or is yelling into their phone for 45 minutes straight at the nail salon, there will absolutely be people taking pictures for sale or just to roast them on socials. Second, practical. There are so many really big stars and minor celebrities in New York that someone always has a project to promote or a PR agenda to push. Paparazzi don't need to chase anyone around because celebrities or their intermediaries are happy to call. A lot of what you might see online and think is spontaneous is actually staged because celebrities like to control their image by getting out their own pictures ASAP when they have a new baby, a new movie, a new boyfriend, whatever. For example, I challenge you to find pop shots of Ariana Grande and Taylor Swift not perfectly coiffed and made up. You can't. You're supposed to think they're meeting friends for lunch, grabbing something at Starbucks, just getting into their cars outside their buildings. But I assure you, those are photo shoots. Even celebrities who prefer to seem above this kind of media manipulation do it when they want to get ahead of a news cycle. A great example is this photo set of Anne Hathaway and her new baby in Brooklyn. At first it seems spontaneous, very minimal makeup, very casual dress, other family members hanging around, but you'll note there are a lot of shots when they easily could have covered her face with an umbrella or hat, or simply turned into the next lobby on the block, explained the situation to the doorman, and waited 15 minutes for the offending photographer to pass. You'll notice how she lingers and sort of poses, pointing to this or that thing on the street. This is a perfect example of someone who knew the tabloids would want the first photos of her after having her baby, so she set them up. And you'll notice there are not any more photos of her out and about with her family because she doesn't call them. Same thing with Scarlett Johansson. There's a single solitary photo set of her in New York with her daughter and her new son with Colin Jost, even though that's where they live. This is in stark contrast to somebody like Emily Ratajkowski, who frequently calls the paparazzi to shoot her and her son in her neighborhood. If you start reading image credits, you'll quickly realize that certain celebrities have certain established or even perhaps contractual relationships with certain paparazzi-style photographers. Emrata, for example, always worked with Splash up until about a year ago, and now she works exclusively with Meghan. Sometimes we see this negotiation between celebrities and paparazzi play out in real time. For example, the dude from the Image Direct was clearly stalking Jennifer Lawrence after she had her baby, and she was clearly not happy about it. So in short order, she gets dolled up, and we see the same day, outfit, outing, and new baby announcement from all the agencies, accompanied with headlines like, "Jennifer Lawrence proves to be the chicest mom in New York City as she's pictured on a rare outing with her son," and "Jennifer Lawrence proves to be the chicest mom in the city on a rare outing with her baby boy Sai." These are choices the celebrities are making, and only the most famous of the famous even have to make these choices during really big life events. There are truly so many celebrities who live in New York City unremarked. Have you ever seen a photo of Catherine Zeta-Jones looking like a hag or looking like she was being harassed? Never, and she's been living on Central Park West for 25 years. This one's for the Brits. Did you even know Daniel Craig and Rachel Weisz live full-time in New York? I'm sorry if I'm going off on too much of a tangent or you feel I'm being too didactic about this. I just want to be clear on how rigged the picture game in New York City is. Celebrity photogs are like celebrity nose jobs. They all say they never had one. And they're able to exert so much control for the third set of reasons. I think this whole scooter chase is extremely unlikely. Legal reasons. New York law was established on this topic way back in the 70s in the knockdown, drag out, suits and countersuits between Jackie O and Ron Galella. Now keep in mind, in 1971, when Jackie O first filed suit, a paparazzi photo of her sold to the papers for $25, today's equivalent of $185. All of this talk about photos of Harry and Meghan being worth $10,000 a piece, $1 million a piece, that is not true. The only celebrity photos to get $1 million are, Brad and Angelina with Shiloh's first pictures, People exclusive, that kind of thing. TV star and ex-royal on the street, I'd be surprised if a single photo topped 500. The subject matter or location would have to be very interesting. Anyway, in 1971, Ron Galella, the archetypical New York paparazzo, sued Jackie O and the Secret Service, saying they were interfering with his ability to make a living by the Secret Service blocking him physically from taking photos of her. And he demanded $1.3 million in damages in 1971. Of course, Jackie counterclaimed, saying that his practice of waiting outside her building every morning and following her everywhere she went and selling the pictures constituted harassment. To be clear, he regularly set off flashbulbs just inches from her face and directly against her car windows. He would hit her with his camera strap to provoke a reaction. He would circle her in a power boat when she was swimming. He hired people to do things like dress like Santa Claus at Christmas time and trick her into posing with her children. He bribed her doormen. He bribed her hairdressers. He embarked on a romantic relationship with her secretary, all to try to get more information about her schedule and more pictures of her. He showed up to her children's school performances and sports games. Really insane stuff. And of course, the judge, seeing evidence of all this, granted Jackie a permanent injunction forbidding Ron to come within 75 yards of the children and 50 yards of her. Later in 1973, an appeals court did modify this to 30 feet for the children, 25 feet for her. However, he slowly returned to his old tricks. Over the decade between 1971 and 1981, he violated the restraining order 12 times. Galella's obsession with Jackie was more than just commercial. On more than one occasion, he told news outlets that Jackie was his muse, he had no other woman, Jackie was like his girlfriend, and that even though she had dragged him to court multiple times, she secretly liked the attention. And by 1981, he actually caused an incident with Caroline where he forced her out of the bike lane on Martha's Vineyard and into oncoming traffic. Jackie went back to court, asking he be cited for contempt for failure to abide by the 1973 court order. And the federal appeals court confirmed that his stalking of her to get pictures constituted harassment and that he was guilty of not only harassment, but intentional infliction of emotional distress, assault and battery, invasion of privacy, and commercial exploitation. The judge told Ron that if he ever saw him in the same courtroom with Jackie ever again, he'd throw him in jail for 60 years. The court also held that crimes committed in news gathering are not protected by the First Amendment, and although Jackie O was a public figure and thus subject to news coverage, the photographer, quote, went far beyond the reasonable bounds of news gathering by his constant surveillance, obtrusive and intruding presence, end quote. A Washington Post article at the time said, quote, Mr. Gillella's conduct sets him apart from other working journalists. His tactics are not the norm. In condemning them, one does not undermine or diminish the rights of the responsible working press, end quote. All this to say, New York City doesn't attract celebrities for the weather. If a freelance photographer gets out of line in New York City, a judge can and will make it impossible for them to do their job and throw them in jail if they get within 20 feet of any celebrity who decides to sue them. Paparazzi in New York absolutely do not race around on scooters, risking their very expensive cameras, hoping to get a shot into the black tinted windows of a celebrity's SUV from 20 feet away. The suggestion is ridiculous. Londoners, tell me in the comments below, is it really so impossible for celebrities to live there? Or is it much the same? Is there any basis whatsoever for their paranoia? Or are we seeing the devolution of minor royals from grandeur to delusions of grandeur? Let me know in the comments, and I'll be back ASAP with the rest of my thoughts on episode 2. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe.